It's a fine spring evening.
It is.
We're full of optimism. We're having a nice glass of plastic cider. Yeah. This is served by myself because it's self-catering at Oliver's. And we're here. The reason we're here, we're discussing my proposed show on radio, Canal Radio, about jazz. But in the meantime, while we've been working out what I should sound like, Oliver and I were listening to a recording he made 10 years ago, which was about New Zealand. And I've always wanted to return to New Zealand because, as it says in the early recording, I wanted to live there. Well, anyway, I never did live there, and I went there for my 60th birthday with two German friends to confirm and qualify my status as A, an Englishman, and B, a European. And the conclusion is that I couldn't live there. It's 10 years on from 1999. I went to New Zealand. I flew there. Terrible nightmare. Dreadful ride. Flew to Kuala Lumpur, 2 hours lurching around the airport, and then another 13 hours or so to Auckland, where my couple of German friends and I set off. We had one night in Auckland and set off cycling. Well, the first mistake is if you go that far, you can't do it in one. You've got to do it in two. You must have a couple of days break anywhere. In Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Los Angeles, Skegness, anywhere. You cannot do it in one if you want to get there in reasonable shape. We got there and off we went, and we got a train out of Auckland, which was hilarious because immediately the Germans, I felt somehow, was slightly out of their sphere of influence because I don't really see Germans as sailors. They're a land people. I mean, I know they have a coastline and everything else, but I don't feel that they're really sailors. And of course, Volker announced, we are out of our sphere of influence, which of course they were. I mean, we're sailors, the British are sailors, the Maoris are sailors. The Maoris are probably better sailors. I mean, they sail from Tahiti to land of long white cloud, as it's now known as, stroke New Zealand, Aotearoa.
Didn't Germany have a very impressive navy during the war?
Well, Germany had a very impressive navy in World War I. It was either spent most of its time in Kiel and Hamburg Harbour, or it came out for a little do at Jutland, and then they scrapped. They did the lot in up at. Where is it? Way up north there. You know, where they were interned at the end of the war? World War One. What was it?
World War One.
Yeah, at the end of World War One. Yeah, World War One.
It's my history knowledge.
Well, at not Loch Ness. They No, up at Scapa Flow.
That's the one.
Yeah, Scapa Flow. World War One ended, and they had to surrender all their ships, and they took them up to Scapa Flow, and good on them. The sailors, they never let the side down, they scuppered them, they scrapped them. World War II, they turned out with a few surface raiders and everything else, but they quickly. Anyway, that's by the by. So the trip gathered momentum, and I felt that I mean, this is some time ago. Let's see, 2009, so it'd be about 2001 or something like that. I felt that the promotion and advertising for New Zealand worldwide was excellent. But when you got there, in lots of ways, the infrastructure wasn't in place. Because once you're out the cities, they're farmers. There's 4 million people there, 4.5 million people there. I don't even think that many. It's early starts, so it's bed early. Now, this drove the Germans crazy because, you know, in Germany and most of mainland Europe, people don't go out till late, and they dine late and they drink late and everything else, but not in New Zealand. And, of course, the perfect example was my great moment when I was 60, and we were somewhere in the Bay of Plenty, and we got to this hotel, had a long day on the bikes, and we arrived at this motel, and it'd been raining, it was dark, and she wouldn't open the door. So Dietrich and Volker and I were banging on the door, and this face appeared at the window. Dietrich said, she's there, there she is. So I said, yeah, I waved to her. She waved, and she looked at us and everything, and then closed the curtains. So she wouldn't let us in. I mean, this is my big night. This is my 60th birthday. This is my dream holiday. This is New Zealand in the raw. Anyway, we slept on the balcony, and unfortunately we got in the lee of the wind, so we got the bloody wind all night. So we woke up in the morning with a couple of guys about 6 o'clock who was striding over us. So eventually the patron came out, and she said, I said, why that? She said, you were the guys that were here last night. I said, why didn't you let us in? She said, well, it was 10 o'clock. I said, 10 o'clock? I said, we've been cycling all day. She said, yeah, but you've got to be careful around here. You could have been drunken Marys. I said, do we look like bloody Marys? You know, like hookers and redhead. I mean, I'm grey-haired, and Teacher's just a redhead. We don't look anything like... She said, you've got to be really careful. So she said, what I'm going to do is give you boys the English breakfast, which, of course, the Germans hate. They hate this heart attack on a plate. So this was the general sort of trend of the trip. And after a while, I found myself defending New Zealand. Now, I don't care about them. I don't live there. I'm just visiting the place. It was beautiful. It's empty. But that made... That was a bit disconcerting for the Germans, these German friends of mine. We were on this beach. There was 3 of us on the beach and no one else. Just walruses bellowing up and down the beach, crashing surf, blue sky, mountains in the background. I thought, how wonderful.